In the next few minutes, I would like to give you an explanation on how to use my battery bank size calculator for your off-grid solar system using lead-acid batteries and PWM charge controllers in mind. I'm a weekend hobbyist and not an expert by any means. Before you do anything, make sure to educate yourself on the topic thoroughly to protect your equipment and yourself from possible electric shock. I am not liable for your actions. You've been warned. You can find a link to the calculator in the video description below. Make yourself a copy using the copy function. Thanks for tuning in. Well, hopefully by the end of this video you will have a better understanding of how big or small battery pack you should make or build for your off-grid solar setup. And what I want to do is just share my own experience with this thing. Well, before I start, you have to know that I'm not an expert, so I'm just a weekend hobbyist and trying to share my knowledge with you. Hopefully you will get some valuable information out of it. And let's see what else. Before you start digesting the information in this video, I strongly suggest you to visit Amy's video on the altE store channel. I just put this link right here because it's a pretty good explanation about what I would like to talk about today. So be sure to check this video out. It's about 9 minutes and it's well worth your time, that's for sure. All right. Before we continue, I would like to share my situation, what I want to build and what kind of equipment I already have. Well, a couple of weeks ago, I got my hands on these solar panels. These are kind of cheap, I believe, Amerisolar panels, and each one of them is rated at 280 watts. But since every single one of them is broken, I mean the glass is broken on them, I'm pretty sure that they are just unable to produce that much power. But some prior measurements, I figured it out that every single panel can provide up to 2 amps in full sunshine. So that's definitely something worth playing with. And I decided to put 4 of these panels in parallel to a PWM charge controller in a way like this. Sorry about the drawing, but you know, it's just a quick mock-up what I would like to build. So what you can see here is we've got 4 panels. It's all connected to a charge controller. It's a PWM charge controller through a breaker, and we've got some fuses here, and ultimately the charge controller is hooked up to the battery bank. Well, what you have to know, and probably you already know, that you always have to hook up your battery to the charge controller first and later the panels, not the other way around. Make sure to connect the battery to the charge controller first. That's crucial. Okay, so that's what I want to build with these panels. And based on Amy's video, I came up with this real simple calculator. And I would like to show you how to use it to, I don't know, figure out your own numbers, because that's what I wanted to do in the first place. Okay, so we've got 4 panels, right? It doesn't really matter how powerful these panels are. You just have to make sure to have big enough panels to work with your system voltage. So what I want to do is charge a 12-volt battery with these panels, and since I know that these panels can provide up to 2 amps in full sunshine, what I want to do is just plug in the numbers here. It's that simple, which leaves us with the power that it can provide throughout the day, I would say, or every single given moment. what you have to do is add these numbers together and then multiply it by 12. So you will end up with 96 watts. That's the power of this setup, right? This setup right here. Which ultimately, if you can run this thing for an hour, you will have a 96 watt hours of produced energy theoretically, and you will get the idea of this theoretical thing in a minute. Well, let's assume that we've got 3 sun hours a day. I believe that's the typical sun hours a day on a, I don't know, given summer day, whatever. Probably it's gonna be a bit more, but let's assume the worst case scenario, right? It's a typical day, 3 hours of sunshine to your panels without any clouds and shadows and whatnot. You get the idea. So in 3 hours, you can provide, or you can produce 288 watt hours of energy, still theoretically, with these panels and with this setup. Well, according to Amy's advice, again, I strongly suggest you to watch this video. So according to Amy's advice, you have to multiply this number with 0.7 and you will get a real life number, so to speak. So with this setup, in every single given day, with 3 sun hours, you can produce around 200 watt hours of energy, which translates to 16.8 amp hours. That's the same amount of energy according that we used a 12-volt battery. So these two numbers are kind of the same. It's just the the measurement is different. Well, we've got 16.8 amp hours of energy we want to store. And we want to store that in lead-acid batteries because that's the cheapest. Because a lead-acid battery doesn't like to get discharged below 50%, you would need 2 batteries. So you get the idea. If you want to store 16.8 amp hours of power, you are not gonna be okay with a, I don't know, 22 amp hours battery, because you would have to discharge your battery way below 50%, and this will destroy your battery sooner than you think. So what you want to do is get 2 of the same batteries, hook them together, and then you will have this 33.6 amp hours just to store 16.8 amp hours of energy. Well, moving forward, we've got the temperature multiplier. You have to decide where you want to use your battery. Obviously, if you happen to use it, I don't know, in the winter, sub-zero, you would have to plug in a different number here. Let's say 1.4. Or if you happen to use your battery in room temperature, just plug in 1.04. It's up to you. You get the idea. Well, this leaves us with the required battery capacity with the temperature multiplier. So we've got this 37.3 amp hours battery. Right. But probably you want to use your battery with an inverter. Well, you have to multiply the previous value with 0.95. That's still an advice based on Amy's video. So this leaves us with this 40 amp hours value, which means in theory you would need a 40 amp hours battery just to store 16.8 amp hours of energy harvested by your panels through 3 hours a day, which translates to these 200 watt hours of energy. Well, I believe it's kind of simple math, but there is more, actually. There is more math involved in this. And we came to the maximum charging current, which means, as you can see here, the fastest a lead acid battery should ever be charged is about 15% of its capacity. So you might be thinking that, okay, I will be okay with a 40 amp hours battery just to store that much amount of power. Well, you might be wrong, because let's just give it a look and plug the 40 amp hours right in here, which leaves us with 6 amps in maximum charging current. Let's take a look at what's going on in here. We've got 4 panels, and each and every one of them can provide 2 amps. Well, it's 2, 4, 6, and 8 amps. Well, that's not so great, because if you happen to charge your lead acid with more current than it can take, it might result in battery damage on the long run, but probably on the short run as well. So what you want to do is increase the battery bank just a little bit. Let's give it a try. Let's try a 60 amp hours battery, right? Which leaves us with this number, 9 amps. Okay, let's do this quick math again. 2, 4, 6, 8. Well, we've got a total of 8 amps in charging current, and we can charge our battery with 9 amps. Well, that's something, it's close. I would say it's okay, but what if your panels decide to perform a bit better? I don't know. In case of my situation where my panels are broken, I can be sure enough that you know, they can provide even more amps than I just measured a couple of weeks ago. Maybe what if I end up with I don't know, 4 amps? It's probably not going to happen because they are real broken, but 4 amps, well, it's just way more than this battery can handle. So I have to make sure to match up the charging current, or at least have a big enough battery that can handle that much current. And why I'm saying that? Because we are using a PWM charge controller here. Okay, so a PWM charge controller is something that actually there is a simple rule that you can see right here. PWM means the current that goes into your charge controller comes out from your charge controller, so it's hitting your battery. If my panels can produce, I don't know, 2 amps each, this means I will end up with 8 amps. These 8 amps will hit my charge controller and ultimately will hit my battery bank. Probably I would need a bigger battery bank, like an 80 amp, or better yet, 100 amp hours battery. Okay, with the MPPT, the maximum power point tracking charge controllers, the thing is a little bit different, and I don't really want to talk about it right now because there are plenty of resources about that. But ultimately, the amps that going into your charge controller might be different than the amps that coming out of your charge controller, and you know, that's the whole reason about MPPTs are much better than PWMs. However, they are more expensive as well. So right now we are still just focusing on lead acid batteries and PWM controllers. Okay, great. So that's what you want to keep in mind. Let's say, what if I change my numbers to 3 amps? I will have 3 times 4, which is still below the threshold that the 100 amp hours battery can handle. Okay, there is another calculator in here that might be helpful and might be, you know, useful for you, is this consumer runtime calculator. Because I want to build a system to run my MacBook. I measured how much electricity is being pulled by the MacBook on an average basis, so to speak. And I figured out that the Mac is using about 20 watts of power every given second, give or take. So I want you to plug in your consumer wattage in this field, and you will get an estimated hours. How much hours can you or how many hours can you use this based on this value right here. Okay, one more thing. What if you want to build a 24-volt system? Because with PWMs, probably that's a good idea. Well, what you want to do is plug in 24 in here, and the numbers will change a little bit, but ultimately you will have the same battery capacity. And to keep that in mind, I have created this tab for you. And by the way, thanks batterystuff.com for the pictures. I just borrowed them real quick right here, because if you are connecting your batteries in series, as you can see here, you will double the voltage, but the capacity will stay the same. And you know, if you want to increase the capacity, you have to connect your batteries in parallel. You have to wrap your head around this, because it's really and super important. Okay, obviously, if you have a charge controller that can handle, I don't know, maybe 30 amps, these are one of the cheapest ones that you can get from China. You should use these panels with the 24-volt systems, and I tell you why. These panels can provide around 31.5 volts as far as I remember. So if you happen to hook up these panels, I mean this way, to a battery bank, which is 24 volts, you can harvest even more energy with the same equipment. It's just you would need a whole lot more battery, because you know, even with this setup, you would need 2 batteries. But if you want to increase the voltage, you would need 2 more batteries. So that single move leaves us with 4 batteries. 4 batteries like this. If you don't really want to move these around, it's okay. But moving around 20 kilogram batteries and 4 of them, that can be quite a pain, I would say. What else? You probably want to use the so-called deep cycle batteries. The one in the picture is a taxi or marine batteries. As far as I know, these marine batteries fall between the car starting batteries and the deep cycle batteries. So I wouldn't say it's the best option. What you want to use is a true deep cycle battery, but probably that would work just fine. I hope it was helpful, and thanks for watching. I don't know. Leave your thoughts in the comment section, and take care. Always watch out what you do, because electricity is not a game when it comes to big numbers, and you know, avoid possible electric shocks. Again, thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.